Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this week's episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we host the head groundskeeper of the Chicago Cubs, Mr. Dan Kiermaier. This is an incredible episode because there are so many great things discussed about Major League Baseball groundskeeping, while also just showing the instant connection between sports field managers and how awesome our industry is as a whole. It's an incredible conversation about so many different aspects of what we are as an industry and the challenges we face and how we face them head on, and really just go and get done what needs to get done. And that's what it's all about. And we always love to hear the stories that we have. And Dan has an incredible story about how he found his way through hands-on learning and enjoying his time and understanding the need to further his education and further his knowledge to be prepared to take on the role as the head groundskeeper in Major League Baseball. And it was just great to talk about how he's been a mentor to such incredible industry leaders that are now moving forward, like Morgan Hunter being the third head groundskeeper in minor league baseball. Just incredible stuff that we really dive into, and really we hope you enjoy to get to hear what Dan has, and we cannot thank him enough for taking the time. We hope you enjoy this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. Good afternoon and welcome to the 72nd episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller. We have an incredible guest today. We have the head groundskeeper of the Chicago Cubs, Mr. Dan Kiermaier. How are you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for taking the time, especially we're just talking, it's one of the busiest times of year for baseball groundskeepers. I know I've got a few friends I've been talking to that are running around with their heads cut off with changing of the bags, changing of the distances, changing of X, Y, and Z, and the bargaining, changing everything on you guys. Like, oh, by the way, you have to change this today because we changed it the day before. So sorry, but baseball is back, you sort of went through this a little bit with COVID, not knowing the uncertainty and obviously the collective bargaining or whatever it's called that they just finished up. You guys, once again, were sort of left in the lurch, What was it like for you sort of getting prepared? I think it's a month delay. I could be wrong. A little bit more than a little bit less than a month. What has it been like for you guys and your crew just sort of getting prepared for the season and how things have changed because of that delay?
Yeah, for us, honestly, nothing has really changed. We're still preparing as normal. This time of year, every year, we're doing whatever we can to kind of get that field into shape, and given the weather this year, it's been a little bit more of a challenge due to our extremely cold temperatures that we've had and continue to have going forward.
Mother Nature, give us a break.
Right, I know it. Getting back, we knew whether baseball was going to be here or not. There was going to be something, like had anything been delayed with the season, we would have filled that void with something. So we had to have the field ready regardless. So yeah, it's just kind of the normal preparation going into this year. Nothing has really changed from our perspective. I know, a lot of other people were, in the Cubs organization were dealing with, certain things, but from our standpoint, we were, just focused on trying to get things ready for, April 7th.
So with that, there are a lot of things that go into it, and you guys being in Chicago, we're talking about the weather. What are some of the biggest things that you're focusing on to ensure that you're prepared for, again, sort of a cold start compared to most the MLB? And how are you ensuring that playing surface is prepared for it to play like it's the middle of the summer,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's been a tough spring. Normally at this time, I just saw today, we're supposed to be, our average high is 52 degrees. Today, I think I got up to 33. So, and looking at this whole week, we have lows down, in the 20s, and the low 30s. And, so that presents a big challenge. But like I said, it's just kind of taken, each and every opportunity that you're given, with, if you do have a sunny day and, you can get out on the field, it's dialing in, all of our clay edges. We brought in our contractor last week and we regraded everything, warning track, infield, got everything kind of dialed into close to where we want it. There's still, some tidying up to do. But as far as the turf goes, I mean, like I said, we're just, we've hit it with a couple sprays. We've put out a little bit of granular so that, when the Mother Nature decides to give us a little bit of growth, that we have, the things in place that kind of kick it into gear. But right now it's just, we have a big preseason checklist, and we're in charge of a lot more than just, the grounds. The grounds crew here at Wrigley, we are in charge of the scoreboard during the game. We, are in charge of hanging all the flags around the stadium, outside landscape, so there's a number of things that we're trying to, get into place before opening day here in a week and a half. And it's just little by little, we're getting there, but there's still a long road ahead.
Very impressive. There are a lot of flags in Wrigley, if I remember correctly. There is an absurd amount of flags in Wrigley. So, again,
yeah,
awesome,
and I give the guys that do that a lot of credit, because they're up, a couple hundred feet, and you'll never see me do that. I'm a groundskeeper for a reason.
I like my 2 feet on the ground. Thank you very much.
Exactly. But I have some guys that, they have no problem doing it. And so they're actually going to be doing that probably tomorrow. So,
hopefully it's not windy, because I would be nervous even if I was on the ground.
Trust me. And the way that swirls here at, Wrigley, I don't know if it swirls as much as it does up top as it does down on the field, but, something with the direction of the field. I mean, it's like a wind tunnel in that place.
Thank you, lake effect. It's always
nice. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Windy City for a reason, right?
Yeah, that lake, sometimes it can be your best friend. When it helps, push a storm. When we have an east wind coming off the lake, and sometimes you'll see a storm and it'll just kind of break down as it gets closer. But then sometimes you'll have these little, rainstorms that aren't even showing up on radar, and it's just this fine mist, and it just lingers, and it can be a pain in the butt too. But
you're just sitting there like, you're just being a pain in my butt now, Mother Nature.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Oh yeah.
One more thing you can do to us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You sort of hinted at, again, you have so many different duties in the actual stadium on a day-to-day basis, and you hinted at the fact that you would have filled the gap of what the season was, right? It is something that Major League Baseball is probably the number one, not culprit, but like number one business in a sense when it comes to non-baseball events, especially during the heart of the summer. And I think Wrigley is pretty well known for being very much a famous location to hold concerts, different events and stuff like that. What has it been like for you to sort of take on all those different things? And I think, do you have a soccer team there as well?
No soccer, thankfully. We like I said, we fill all of our summer, gaps with concerts. And
so with that, there are so many things that you're worried about. What has it been like for you? You've been on for over 5 years now, correct?
I've been with the Cubs since 2015, and I'm entering my third year as head groundskeeper.
Okay, so how has it been like for you sort of transitioning into, again, taking up that, okay, they're covering my field, I have to deal with this, in the sense of in the middle part of the season? Yeah.
I guess, me having the perspective of being an assistant, for a number of years, and kind of, because this is something they don't teach you in school. Like you get into the concert mode, and it's just a completely different animal. And like, until you've either worked in them or talked to somebody who's worked in them, it's not your normal preparation. And here at Wrigley, it's definitely difficult, because we only have one entrance in and out of the stadium, and it's coming off of a city street. So
5 feet from the street to the field, right?
Yeah. And there's not much room for like the trucks to come in and, get, for the cranes and all the flooring and all the scaffolding that goes up for the stages. So we're kind of we have to cut out a 2,400 square foot block out in right field each and every time, just so that we can set up drivable flooring. And it's just part of it's what we have to do, because we know with that, that flooring being down for a week, that grass has no chance to survive, especially in the heart of the summer. So we just get ahead of it so that, when they do pull it up, that we're ready to go. And then, as you said, I mean, it is very stressful, because a lot of times these concerts are, they're in June, July, and August. That's our hottest months of the year here in Chicago. It's, our disease pressures are highest. It's a lot of things that you kind of have to worry about. And have you been to Wrigley before?
I have.
So we have next to nothing as far as like storage.
I was gonna say the shop itself is probably minuscule, right?
We have an area to store, I think it's 2 mowers, 2 gators, and our Sam Pro, and then we have a little room that we store all of our batting practice equipment. It's
this much space between each thing, right?
Yep, exactly. So yeah, and so we have to empty out all those spaces, with all of our equipment, all of our batting practice equipment, and we have to take those to a storage area 2 blocks away. So you can imagine, a Sunday night after a Cubs game, and everybody's going out to the bars, and you're driving your car or whatever, and you see a batting cage, the turtle.
That's amazing.
Going down Addison. It's
like,
definitely
hand me a beer, people. Come on, hand it over. Support your
exactly. Yeah, it's definitely unique in the sense that we kind of have to get creative with the space that we're given. And like I said, come those concerts, we have to empty all of our equipment out of the stadium and flip things over, in a pretty tight time frame so that the concert people can bring their stuff in and get going. And it's chaotic. It's a frenzy, but it's also keeps you on your toes and you're never bored at that place.
Say that's more than chaotic. I've heard stories and I've been a part of stories for concerts, and it's like, I can't believe we had to do this. And now you're saying you had to move everything 2 blocks away. You think that maybe like the Cubs might have bought like the building across the street, from your shop. It's like, hey, this is a little extension, keep your spray rig over there, all the stuff that you don't really need all the time that you can just drive across the street for a minute, That'd be nice.
That'd be great, but it also, it's just something that we're never going to bank on.
No. I mean, the fact they moved the bullpens inside, I heard, was nearly impossible.
Yeah, but that's been a great, addition, I guess, or, upgrade, because the way that we dump our tar, we have to dump it towards left field, and that's the Cubs side.
Gotcha.
And the way that our pitch kind of, in our foul territory, drops off. Yeah. Every time we dump that thing, our home
to the bullpen,
home bullpen's catcher spot would get flooded, so we had to have to, pull an extra tarp to try to, get any excess water that would be flowing downward, to go on top of it to get to our drains, and complete pain in the butt.
The catchers can take the wetness. Okay. They get pretty big tips from their $1 million pitchers they catch year round,
Yeah, true. But if you're pulling a pregame and, you have your starting catcher out there and he's, squatting in some mud,
again, they can handle it. You know what I mean? How about you come pull the tarp, Mr. I make $500 million, like, break off a chunk and we'll fix the problem, right? You know what I mean? If only that's how the world worked, right?
But that being said, like I said, having all those clay areas that were, sloped off the field now, it's been dream come true, and never having to worry about, tarping those things, in the middle of a rain delay, because that's true. That was another thing,
about that.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Yep. That's awesome for sure. With that, it sort of sounds like it really didn't impact that much. I know there's been a lot of renovations around the park and everything. Has anything impacted you? Has there been additions to landscaping stuff? Has there been different things that you have sort of gained more work in the sense, or like maybe benefited, maybe if they thought of you? I probably not.
Our grounds crew, our like locker room, where all the guys are, pre-shift, post-shift for their breaks and everything like that. It's actually the old Cubs clubhouse out in left field. And, the Bears used to use it back when they played at Wrigley. So, but that being said, until 2020 or 2019, winter of 2019 going into 2020, it hadn't been upgraded in who knows how long. So, part of that, at the tail end of all the construction, we got an upgraded room, and, so that they've spruced that up a lot. We did, we have like a little plaza area outside of the ballpark now. And originally, it was about 5,000 square feet or so. And it was all natural grass. And it's kind of an area for kids to play. And I'm actually going to go backtrack. I think it was like 15,000 square feet. So it was a pretty big spot. But that being said, like, you have thousands of fans out there every game, trampling it. We'd have farmers markets. We'd have, things like that. We'd have to resod that area, 4 to 5 times a season, because of the amount of traffic that, we had going on. And, we'd kind of correlate it with, anytime we'd be doing sod inside the ballpark. So, a normal sod job, those aren't the most fun days. And then turning it into,
Add a whole
sod.
Nice mini field on the other side doesn't help, right?
Yeah. And I remember one time, we had just laid the last piece of sod and they set up tents on, for their farmers market. And it just, 3 days later, it almost looked like it did before, because it all dried up and burnt out. And thankfully, I want to say we did 2 years of that. And then, I'm the biggest advocate in the world for natural grass, but in that sense, we just went artificial.
Purpose,
it saved us a lot of work, and it looks good all the time, and everybody's been happy. So it's worked out well for us.
It's also not like a full on field. You know what I mean? It's like a common space. It's not the end.
Right.
Of the world, right?
And like I said, I mean, they have like, movie nights out there. They have exercise classes. They have, all sorts of events. And, with the amount of traffic and, for as little as that we could find the time to get out there and keep it looking good, it made all the sense in the world to go to artificial out there.
100%, and again, like that's shouldn't be your priority, and you shouldn't have to like be 100% like committed, like, oh no, they're on it again 5 seconds after I put the sign down. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of ridiculous. You think you just block off something, but again, the money train never really ends, if that's the right term for it.
And I mean, from their perspective, they have a limited time, especially being in a Midwest climate. You have to maximize that field from April to the end of October. Really, I mean, that's kind of your time frame. And when you kind of get into this line of work, kind of what you're getting into, and it's going to be a grind for 6 or 7 months out of the year, and then you get to back off a little bit in the wintertime, but so it's give and take.
100%. What are some of the things, and you sort of discussed some of them right now, getting the grade and everything for the infield, what specifically for you are you focusing on these last 2 weeks, getting into, again, just sort of maybe the groove of, okay guys, 10-game homestand. This is what we're doing. This is what you need to expect going into the away stand, air rating, top dressing, stuff like that. How are you sort of getting that schedule right with maybe some new guys that you have on staff? Obviously, hopefully your assistants stayed or they moved on to a better job. What is it about sort of your crew and what you're doing now to ensure that they're prepared for, again, what you call a grind of a season,
Yeah. We had a football game last fall, so we had to, tear all that out. And I think our last piece of sod got laid December 6th. And, we had, pretty much the day after Thanksgiving until that time. So it was maybe 10 days. And then our weather, got really bad after that. So we had to really cram a lot in there. So, things weren't, to spec. We had a lot of, we hadn't built a mound yet. We had just installed a 4-inch column of dirt edge, on our infield. So there was a lot of little things that just, I mean, we had a field in, but all the detail work that, your edges, our grade, after, being, having snow on it for a winter, and, you get, we had to settle pretty good, in spots. So we had to add, 25 tons more, of dirt edge, to it to kind of bring it back up to grade. We had to add, about 50 tons of warning track due to, having to excavate, some of it out to get to field grade for a football field. And it's just kind of bringing, all those things that you had in place with the last field kind of back up to par with this one. Like I said, we've top dressed, about 50 tons, of sand, 25 last winter, I guess, before the winter, and then with another 25, just a couple weeks ago to kind of warm up that surface as much as possible. Like this time of year, we're just really trying to manipulate that grass to get growing because, like I said, right now, with the temperatures that we've had, we really, we don't have any field heat or anything like that. So we're just trying to do everything we can in our power to kind of get things jumping. So.
Absolutely. Who makes up your crew? It's you and 2 assistants, 3 assistants?
Yeah, it's me, 2 assistants, and then we have 6 more full-time guys. So I have one of the bigger crews, but like I said, during the games, I'll lose one guy does the balls and strikes for the scoreboard, and the other guy is running, the however many teams are playing up there. So that's one full-time guy, and then it usually requires three other part-time guys to kind of manage that. So we lose a few guys in that sense. Normally on a typical, let's say, night game, we have 2 guys here in the morning, to do any like pulling the tarp, doing all of our mowing, nail dragging, all like the cleanup and everything like that, the pregame stuff. I'm sorry, what was that?
All the maintenance before the game, all the good stuff. Yeah.
So those 2 guys, and then we'll typically, this year we're bringing back our intern program, and so we'll have a couple interns with them, and a handful of part-time guys just to help those guys out, getting all the batting practice equipment and gear in shape. And there's a lot of times pregame clinics or things like just minor stuff that's going on in the field, so they'll manage all that. And then the rest of the crew will come in, typically, noon or 1 and pick up from there. But yeah, eight full-time guys. And then I just checked, I think we have 54 part-time guys for, our tarp crew, which, a lot of college kids, a lot of teachers and things like that. So it sounds like a big crew, but a lot of their times are, a lot of the guys we get are, May to August bulk.
They're really, so they have this time, we have this time. It's usually like probably 15 a night, something like that for the part-time guys.
Yep. It's right around 20, I think, is what we shoot for. So.
Gotcha. I almost actually interned for the Cubs the year they won.
2016, yeah,
2016. I was pretty close. It was talking to Justin, and he said something about HR having a problem. I ended up going to Pittsburgh with Matt Brown because I had been with him in New York the year before, but did Hines and PNC. So that was this close. Cool. And then you guys won. Yeah. I was like, well, geez, that probably would have been fun,
I don't want to rub it in, but it was a lot of fun. But
come on, Wrigleyville had to be insane that entire week. Even like it's probably 3 weeks. 1 week of the actual playing, 1 week of celebrating, 1 week of trying to still come off of it. 100 years kind of does that to you. So,
yeah, it was quite the party. That's for sure. It was the
best way to say it, right?
Something that I for me, like that was probably the coolest thing I'll ever experience in my career. And they could win 10 more, but that first one, that no one had ever seen, it was just something magical about that whole season. Like every little thing kind of went their way. They didn't have a lot of injuries. They won every close game. It was just one of those magical runs that obviously, it only happens every so often, because with that team, I kind of, I think a lot of people thought that they would win, they'd go on kind of the Giants run that they went on in the late 2000s or 2008, 10 or whatever, 12.
And then a little break.
Yeah, it felt like it was going to be something like that. And then, turns out it didn't happen. But that being said, it was the coolest experience that I'd ever had in my life.
Yeah, it's insane. Everybody was a Cubs fan that day. No one could not be.
Right.
Even the St. Louis Cardinals fans and all the people that hate the Cubs, they were all Cubs fans that day. It's crazy.
And it was just like the wildest game ever. You know, the Cubs had the lead the whole time, that game 7, and then they ended up blowing it. You know, I think it was the 8th inning. A guy that hadn't hit a home run since, mid-July takes one out off Aroldis Chapman, the most.
Gotta love Aroldis Chapman being the guy that always loves to keep you on your toes,
Oh man, yeah. But I tell you what, I don't think they're in that spot without him because they're both.
They still win the trade. They still win the trade.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
it didn't matter if Gleber was a star, which is not, no offense to Gleber, but it was now or never in their mind, and they made it now, you know. So
Yeah.
that was the big thing, and it was so cool. So
And like
there's
I said,
really no value to it.
right. And like I said, it felt like every move they made that year, it just kind of worked out. And that was, like I said, obviously it doesn't happen, and it's like you look around and other teams like, or other sports, it's like you have these teams that go on these long runs, but baseball, it's like you don't have a lot of repeat champions, like I guess probably the Red Sox have had the most success here in the last 20 years, but even then it's like nobody goes back to back or anything like that anymore, how they used to. It's just crazy, but
no one's the Giants, I forget who I was talking to the other day though. The one that is insane is March Madness. There is very few other than Wooden that have repeated on so many, like Coach K has one, like supposedly the greatest coach of all time outside of, again, Wooden, has one championship, and it's his 5th Final Four this year. Like that is an achievement, like over 30 years of coaching. Like that's extremely difficult. That's gotta be insane. To put that together. That's what it's what I love about baseball. Baseball is a game of failures, and everybody's like, well, if they're successful, I'm like, well, 300 is a Hall of Fame stat. Batting 300 is a Hall of Fame stat. Guess what? They didn't get a hit 7 times. So that's what's great about baseball. And that's actually what brought me to turf and to field management. What was it for you that brought you to sort of sports field management or turf grass management? Was it golf? Where did your story sort of start, and how did it sort of get to this point of being the head groundskeeper in Chicago?
Yeah. I grew up playing sports my whole life, just kind of how you mentioned. And, it didn't allow me to have like a job in the summer, like a lot of kids did. So, one thing that I did, my dad was like, hey, why don't you go mow some lawns around the neighborhood? And, so I started doing that, and I never even thought I enjoyed it. I liked it. I never in 100 years thought of that as a career path. I thought it was something to make $20, a yard or something, and I felt like I was rich, at the end of the week when I had $150 or whatever. But, so I did that for a couple years. And then going into college, my playing career, it was done. Like, I mean, I had some looks from some smaller schools, and it just wasn't really the route I wanted to take at that time in my life. And so I ended up going to Purdue. And my first 2 years, I was undecided. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Gotta
love college,
Yeah, exactly. And I ended up, getting into physical therapy of all things. I did it because I think I saw a salary, and I liked what they started at and things like that.
Your eyes go, oh yeah, that's me right there.
Yeah. And I did one semester of that and was like, this is not for me. This is not for me at all. And at the time, thankfully I was living with a guy who he had mentioned that he was doing turf science to me, but like at that time in my life, I'm 19 or 20 years old, and he says I'm doing turf science. I don't even know what the heck he's talking about. What the heck is turf science? And I remember it was, towards the end of that semester, and I was kind of at a crossroads. I was like, this is not what I want to do with my life. And I think I was sitting around having some beers with the guy, and like, hey, what is it that you do again? And he kind of started explaining, I'm in turf science, and I'm, you can do the golf course route, which is with the route he took, and a lot of people take, at Purdue. But so he started explaining, it's like, yeah, you can do a landscaping business. You can get into sports turf. And, at that time, like what, rung a bell with me was like the lawn care aspect of it, because that's what I like to do. And I kind of look back and I'm like, oh, I never hated that, and like, why don't I give this a shot? So I just kind of completely put all my chips, in this kind of industry. And I remember I got into the classes the first time, and they're talking about top dressing and things like that. And I'm like, I don't even know what language they're speaking right now. Like, what in the world?
That was me. It was so funny because you're sitting there, you're like, I was a smart kid in high school, and I have no idea what is being said right now. And I've got like a bunch of farmers around me. I'm like, You all know what's going on. And I'm just like, yeah, I answer C. No. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. And I remember people asking questions and I'm like, what in the world is a real mower? Things like just the most basic stuff. And, but, I got into it and all of it, like I picked up on it pretty quickly. But then, my first internship was with a golf course back in my hometown, Fort Wayne Country Club. And I really enjoyed the work right off the bat. Like at the time I didn't golf at all. I'd never golfed in my life. And, so I didn't know the first thing about a golf course. But that being said, like the work side of it all, like, my days like flew by in an instant, as opposed to previous jobs that I'd had, where, it just, you're in one spot all day. It's just the time drags. And for me, kind of being an ADD kind of guy, like I like to do different things. I like to, I can't just sit here and kind of focus on a computer screen all day or anything like that. I need to be moving around, using my hands, doing different things. And then after that, the next summer, I people had started mentioning, you can get into the sports turf side of it. And so that was kind of the route I wanted to take. And I ended up interning with the Staten Island Yankees and Ryan Woodley up there. And so he was kind of my first introduction.
Ryan. I worked with him in New York.
I was going to say, yeah, because I figured you might have crossed paths if you're in New York.
Great guy.
Awesome.
It was funny.
Awesome.
He, I forget what it was. Him and his name was Tim McAndrews. He's the assistant in New York now. They were awesome guys. Always took care of me when I was up there. And I was really excited for him when we got that job in Milwaukee. He definitely deserved that opportunity. So sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. No. And so, yeah, he took me in and, I didn't have a place to live. So he let me live with them. And, I was,
He's that kind of guy.
And, yeah. And like just the lifestyle between golf and sports turf, I didn't have to be up at, 4:30 a.m. every day. And, that spoke to me at that time. and just like I said, going back at the time, like I didn't grow up playing golf. I love it now, but at the time I didn't know anything about golf. So like, it didn't really translate to me when I was on a golf course. Whereas, growing up playing baseball, like he told me to go do this or that, I knew my way around a ball field. And, having grown up, you kind of know a good field versus a not good, you know what I mean? Where
100%.
And having playing experience, like I knew what I liked, growing up. So like that all like kind of easily translated. Cause in college or, at least my turf program, like we didn't get taught anything about any clay or anything like that. So yeah, it was, Ryan teaching me and then, kind of just being hands-on and kind of learning as you go, but I picked it up really quickly. And then, I did a couple more internships. I did one more after that at the University of Michigan. I don't know if you know Jay Demink at all, but he's another great guy. And
I've heard of him. I have never had the pleasure.
One of the funniest people you'll ever meet in your life. Yeah. So if you ever have an opportunity to get him on this, he's a riot. But sure. Interned there, and then from there I went out to the Camelback Ranch with the Dodgers and the White Sox, and that was kind of my
back
really cool.
Trip. Yeah.
And, for me at that point, like I said, I'd been an intern, I knew my way around now, but like, this was my first full-time job. And, for any young guys that are out there and, you are kind of weighing different options, I think if baseball is what you want to do, go jump into spring training because, it was a 14 field complex with another half field and there's, different mount, there's
1,000 bullpens.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you want to refine, your craft, that is a great place to do it. And like I said, it's just by repetition alone, like you're doing everything. And, I think it was, the head guy, 2 assistants, and then 4, it was like 6 guys taking care of, 7 different fields on each side, so it was
very few people.
Exactly. And it's just, the amount of work that you have to get done with, it really makes you be efficient with everything that you're doing and like learn how to do things quickly. And it was a great experience for me. And then my last stop before I got to Wrigley, I was the head groundskeeper at the Cincinnati Reds Urban Youth Academy, which was a 4-field complex that had just opened. J&D Turf, Advanced Turf kind of helped set it up. So I, partially worked with those guys as well as the Reds and kind of managed that. So I got, management experience as well as like I said, I was working with the field grading company, J&D Turf, and those guys kind of showed me that side of it all,
Huge.
So
that's huge.
And that's another thing that you just don't learn, in school is like how to grade a field, how to set grade and things like that. And it's just like, you have to learn it hands-on from somebody that knows. And so like all those experiences were, big, parts of my story before I got to Wrigley. And, like I said, I got to Wrigley at 2015 and, I've been here since, and it's been a great ride so far.
Yeah. And it's funny you talk about, again, I agree with you in so many ways about how there's so little that you learn that is used in the workplace. And when I took this job, I sort of said that. I was like, you know what? I learned so much from guys like Ryan. I learned so much from the experiences that I had being able to manage a field in a manager's form, like having the opportunity to do that at Virginia Tech. Things like what is expected of you, no one knows. And again, like I love my professor. Dr. Goatley is one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. If you put Dr. Goatley in your position, things are going to go wrong. You know what I mean? There are so many different things that we don't take into account when it comes to the classroom space in colleges. And I know it's not set up that way, but programs like Penn State who have specific like turf pathology and turf, whatever, like I feel like we could do a better job of setting up courses that focus on like, again, grading. Grading is the number one thing that I think is taken for granted on every field in the United States of America that's not a professionally cared for field,
100%. Yeah.
So when we're talking about things like that, like Leah Withrow out in Reno, she has a AB Force, and I don't know if she has the grader on it, but like things like that where you can have that on site is incredible. People don't think about certain things like that, but it's being able to take again what you learned in your internships and bringing that to light. So another thing, down at, was it the MLB symposium was the day after SFMA, correct?
Yep.
Do you remember a girl, Gracie Hendricks from Syngenta? Did she talk?
Yeah, I remember the name. Yep.
So she was actually a classmate of mine at Virginia Tech, and she calls me and says, "Hey, I do all this work with all these fungicides and everything with the golf courses, but how are we using that for MLB groundskeepers and whatnot?" I was like, "Well, you got to think about the tarps that they're covering their fields with, and the concerts that they're covering the entire field with. Those are the things they're concerned about and stuff that you need to focus on in the presentation, so that again, you could sell your product for things like that, because golf courses aren't really doing that." So it's a whole different ball game that we didn't know about in our classroom because our professors didn't really understand that. Oh, wait, these tarps are used on a daily basis and you're shading out your plant for, I don't know, probably 4 hours of the day, usually on average, if not more. Things like that again, you bring such great points to, again, your experiences and what came through. What are your thoughts on sort of that being incorporated into an educational space?
I mean, I think it would make the world of difference, because as you kind of spoke on, like, and I had a great education. Like I said, I went to Purdue and it was a phenomenal experience, and I had great professors, Aaron Patton and Cale Bigelow, guys that are, know more about grass than I'll ever know.
Hoping to have Cale on here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's a great guy, very interesting. That being said, it's like everything you learn in school, I feel like, is kind of in a perfect world sense, and that's when we have interns, like I stress to them, like, we let the situation dictate kind of how we approach it. Like, like we shoot for a certain nitrogen goal each year, but if we have to go above that because we need more recovery, like, it's just, so be it, it's, you can't always be in that 4 to 5 pound range. It's like, sometimes you just have to push the plant and get a response,
Give it a little go-go juice,
Exactly. And it's just, it's different year to year, and it's never the same. Like this year will be different than last year was, and that was different from the year before. It's just, that's what's kind of interesting about this job. I mean, obviously weather dictates it, but then there's also, concerts, there's events, there's different things, and it's kind of, I think having, somebody like you to kind of be that liaison, and kind of express, somebody that's had that experience, on both sides. It's like, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're not being taught. Like, I think that's like the gap in the education right now. It's like you need more hands-on. Like you just, there's a lot to be learned that isn't being taught, essentially.
100%. And the thing is, I don't quite understand how professors haven't gotten that sort of informational feedback from people, especially when you're talking about golf course superintendents, and you're Dr. Jaworski at Penn State probably has the number one irrigation class in the country, because he's taken information back from, again, superintendents and field managers and said, okay, where do we need to focus on? Like, what's breaking the most? How do we need to understand that? And that's why he's an incredible professor. It's just understanding that there are things that we're just missing gaping holes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Meteorology is a huge one,
100%.
Talking to Ryan and Matt and those guys during like, oh, are we going out? Or are we doing this? He's like, well, the front's coming in here and this is that. I'm like, how do you know all this? Like, you're just like a groundskeeper. We're not supposed to know these things, but it's something that adding to your tool belt is going to make a huge world of difference,
100%. And you just kind of touched on it, but meteorology, it's like something, I had a class in college, and I don't know how much I retained from it because I've been relearning it, as I go for here, and it's just, it's also kind of situational too. It's kind of knowing, how your specific location, how the weather, patterns kind of, differentiate, like I said, with us having a lake,
you're
literally
getting a whole new ball game
within a mile, that represents, quite an obstacle sometimes. And it's just kind of, understanding what the time of year and kind of what, Mother Nature is, thrown at you in the past and kind of what to expect. But it's definitely something, like you said, that it's better to have that tool than to not. And, it's, especially because you're in the teaching mode. Like, I wish I could go back and, like, if the way, when I was in college, I was there to kind of get a grade and, to have fun. And, it just, I was young. I wish, I could go back now and, sit in on some of those classes, because there's a lot of, valuable information that, I probably let go in one ear and out the other. But
class for me, that's what it was.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you.
My professor it was hard to listen to. He's a great guy, but he had this stutter that was just like, you're trying to listen. It's like, okay. Okay. And the people that didn't show up to class got better grades than the ones that were there trying to learn. I was just, I was like, you gotta be kidding me,
Yep. But I know I'm right there with you on that, because I'm more, my learning style is I like hands-on, and if it's just a bunch of numbers up on a screen and it gets a little bit too analytical, like I start to lose interest, and I wish I was better with that, because I appreciate the heck out of the smart guys that can provide that information, but I need it to be dumbed down for me. I like that, keep it simple, stupid, that's my approach,
Yeah.
And,
so that was my approach, sort of making the program was, again, right now we're maintaining our mound the way I maintain a mound in the pros, like using black stick. We're not using the full on, I don't have time for that, but we're using black stick. We're learning the processes. They're doing edge work. They're doing all these things. Am I saying it's as good as a professional field? Absolutely not. But to what we can do, they're learning the same techniques that I did, again, at a level that we're able to sustain with money that we have, which is not much, but it works, So that's the main goal, is just teaching the techniques and understanding. And what we do is we focus on the classroom aspect in the winter when we can't get outside. We talk about why we're aerating. We talk about the differences in tines and what they do for the soil, and how doing this with top dressing impacts the growth and all. Like, again, what we want to know as turf managers, not just, oh, I know how to operate the aerator just fine. Don't worry. Like having some background behind it, I think is important at a young age.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like I don't care if you're on, a little league field or if you're at Wrigley Field, a good edge is a good edge, and like, that's something, going back to your playing days, my playing days, it's like, you never want to be that infielder that doesn't know where a ball's going to go if it hits that, that transition, that lip area,
right in the face. That was my,
and that's what I mean. Everybody's been hit there. Everybody's taken one in the groin, and it's, you want to, have your players that are using your field, like you want just consistent ball roll every single time. And, those are the fundamentals like of a baseball field. Like, I don't care if you're at the highest level or the lowest level, you want a good edge. And like, that's something that we stress, each and every day, but it goes back. It's like the same principles applied when I was at the Cincinnati Reds Urban Youth Academy. It was just, there's certain things that no matter where you are or what level you're at, like you want to emphasize. And those things that you kind of just touched on are all, huge integral process, parts of our process. So
100%, and that was another thing, is taking it from, again, guys like Ryan and guys like Bill Deacon and all these guys, Chris Ecton, and bringing that back just to sort of, again, it can be done by a teenager if you train them right. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
It is a great opportunity for our kids, which it's been great sort of developing everything. We're growing. So hopefully we keep doing that. But,
absolutely.
When it comes to you, 3 years at the helm, what has it been for you sort of developing upon what was once before as an assistant to creating a more efficient sort of your own type of grounds crew? And again, Justin's a great guy, and you've worked for him and had the opportunity to learn from him. What was it that you sort of brought to the grounds crew at Wrigley Field to create the most efficient, fun place to work for you and your guys?
Yeah. We had a good system before I took over. And so for me, it was, maybe a little bit easier of a transition, but, one thing that I always wanted to be, like, if I ever got into this position, it was like, I wanted to be the boss to the people, to the employees that I always wanted to have. I didn't want to come in and have all these ideas, as an assistant, and then not be able to apply them. Like, I wanted to come in, I wanted to, make sure that, I was taking care of the employees just as much as I was taking care of the grass. Like, as a manager, like, you're only as good as the guys that, are helping you get, achieve your goal. And, my crew, I will put up there with anybody. Like, we have, the best guys. They are the best group of people that, I could ever ask to work for. And, it's just taking, it's having fun. It's, obviously, when time comes to work, you got to work. And we have the guys that are able to do that, but it's also, when you can scale back, you can laugh, you can make fun of each other, it's those type of things that, they go a long way, and you never want it to be too tense in the room or anything like that. But, kind of getting back to what you said, I mean, it was just, when I took over, it was just small tweaks here and there. And, like I said, when I was an assistant, every single day, like every situation, I would kind of just internally analyze, how I might do things differently. And, for me, it's because until you're in this spot, like, you don't know. But like, if you have experience, kind of, living through those, situations, just how I might do things different, how I might, approach this thing, you at least are putting yourself in a position, like, when you do get to this, whatever your title is or goal, like, that you're ready, to make those decisions. And it's easier said than done. Like, there's a lot of times, like, where you can, question your boss and why are we doing this or why are we doing that? And you don't really know until you're in their shoes. And, sometimes it's difficult, like on the 10th day of a homestand, and, we're having to tarp after a game, and it's those kind of calls and situations. But it's, like I said, it's kind of, scaling back when you can and making sure your guys are, getting the rest and the time away that they need as well. Like I said, it's been minor tweaks. I haven't, reinvented the wheel or anything like that. It's just been small tweaks that I think have been well received.
Absolutely. I'm still waiting for someone to invent the automatic tarp because I saw the field. I forget where it is. I think it's might be Real Madrid, but they have those trays that are going in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is my concept. I'm trademarking this for anybody who's going to steal this for listening. But right behind, we're going to have, again, trays. You know, the old modular systems they used to have. So we'll have one area that's the modular system, right? So we'll have is it'll raise up out of the ground, and then it's like you pull it, as a group, and then you stake it in, and then you just pull down the tray so that it's flat with the ground, right? So then you pick it up and you just lift up and pull back, and as it's going back, the water drains into the hole, and voila, we're done.
I need you to invent that right now, man, because that would save us. I've always thought, like when those automatic pool covers, that just come
exactly
up,
right, exactly
something like that.
Something like that, where it's literally just lift up 5 feet, everything drains off, and then you just let go and it rolls up perfectly.
That'd be, oh man, yeah.
That would be the day,
right? Because if you think about it, I mean, the tarp is probably the one thing over the last however many years, that everybody's been doing this that's stayed the same.
Like one thing in baseball that all groundskeepers hate.
None of us like it, and like I said, nobody's found a better way to do it, really. So
that'll be a lot of money
out there for whoever's listening is creative enough to come up with a different solution.
You can take the idea. I'm not trademarking it. Make it easier for him. Just a little money. Maybe the first $1 million I'll take.
Right.
But you were mentioning again, sort of making tweaks and whatnot. And I never thought about it this way because, again, just being in New York and working and being in the same room as guys like, again, Matt and Ryan, 2 head groundskeepers now, you never really thought about that with Bill. Again, Bill's one of the greatest guys you ever meet. And he has so much knowledge and so much, talent when it comes to infield work and stuff like that. And you're like, you never really thought of Ryan and Matt just sitting there learning and understanding what it would take to, again, make those next steps and be those head groundskeepers that, again, everybody wants to be on staff with. Because like you said, taking care of your guys is important. And I think that was probably my biggest experience in the industry that other people had other issues with, like maybe their boss was rude or something, or they were short with people. I'm like, I never once had any major run-ins with anyone, I'm sure Ryan wanted to punch me a couple times, but I deserved that, but a situation that, again, I use as sort of a joke, even though it wasn't a joke at the time. And I know Matt wanted to kill me. I drug a little too close to the wall, and I didn't notice my first lap around. This is a wall pad left center, 40 minutes before a game. And I'm dragging the warning track. And I come back around and I'm like, why is there a hole in the wall right there? And I turn back around. And I'm like, no, there's no way. I didn't do that. I'm like, I did that. That was me. So I'm like, hey, Matt, just so you know, I kind of put a hole in the wall out there. It's not noticeable. It's noticeable. We have to call somebody. So they're literally out there like a pit crew, taking the wall pad off and taping it back. I'm like, oh, geez, it's going to go well for us tonight.
And you know what? For me, I've screwed up enough to know that those things are going to happen. I've done that, it's, those things are going to happen. And, for me, it's like, if it's not going to disrupt the game, if it's not, it's a minor inconvenience right now. And it puts stress on whoever has to come and fix it really quickly. But I try not to for me, I just don't ever want to lose my cool, I've screwed up. Like I said, I've messed up enough. I've messed up enough grass to know that things come back and everything can be fixed, on that field. There's nothing you're going to do that's going to kill unless you actually,
unless you put the Roundup in there and you're like,
crazy.
What did I do there? Why did I put Roundup in the tank?
Yeah. You don't want to do that, but anything else, I just try not to ever like let something that I'll laugh about in, 5 days, let me, make me lose my head right now, because it's just, maybe it's having two children, I have two kids now, and I guess I'm just a little bit more patient, but
yeah,
it's just, things happen and you just have to deal with it. Like that's all you can do. And me yelling because I'm mad at the situation isn't going to help it. So
absolutely. And I think that's huge for, again, people like me who were young at the time, and like, he had every right to yell at me and he didn't. And that's some of the biggest things for me, that like, again, you want to work harder for that guy. You want to be the better worker. You want to, again, show that, all right, you're letting me have, again, a chance to redeem myself. Like, those are the moments that, again, you retain those people that a lot of people lose,
and a lot of times, like, you can see it, if somebody's really trying and, making an effort, like you can brush off a little screw up here or there. It might be a little bit more frustrating, for somebody if it's, something they do all the time and it's, maybe they're not catching on to that, they keep messing stuff up. But for the people that are really, they're understanding, and what, you saw that situation and you went and told them, like, that's, owning up to those, little mess ups too. It's, it's sometimes the things that would irk you is if you find something that nobody brought to your attention, and then that's kind of when, a different story. But, if you own up to it and you're accountable, it's, you can brush things off.
The story I teach my kids, I said, if you break something and you don't tell me, what if someone else gets hurt using whatever you broke?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
100%.
Like, it's very simple. It broke. I accidentally hit something. Sorry. Okay. I'll fix it. We'll do it later. Like, you're fine. You're going to get right back on. That's my biggest thing, is always, because they're younger and they're learning, like, you're going to get back on. We're doing this. Like, this is happening,
Definitely.
So again, something that I love about my job is, again, having the ability to be a mentor, and have the time to, again, develop these young, really young, for when it comes to you working with younger individuals in the industry. What has it been like for you? We've actually had Morgan on before, and she spoke very highly of you. And it was like the third day after it was announced that she was a head groundskeeper that we had her on. What has it been like for you, again, sort of being that mentor and being that guide for the younger generation of sports field managers coming in through Wrigley, and whether it's internships or jobs or what has it been like for you to be a part of that?
That's something I take really seriously, because, I would not be here right now had I not had good mentors, in my career. And so that's something that, anytime I can take somebody aside and, teach them something new, even if it's just explaining the most basic things, like me taking 2 minutes to explain something, why we're doing it, as opposed to just kind of brushing it off and assuming they know it, is kind of the difference between, maybe something happening and maybe not. And it's just the small little things. It's, trying to, bring somebody along who has no idea what they're doing, because that was me at one point. And like I said, a guy like Brian, groomed me. And so did countless other people, like they took chances and they worked through, me screwing up plenty of times. I really, like I said, 5 minutes out of my day could, be something that lasts a lot longer for them, and small little conversations just here and there, like they make a big impact. And that's, like I said, something that I try to do, as much as I can. And, anytime that I can, get a guy or, an intern on a mower, when the team's going out of town, when we're wiping out a pattern, like I know nobody ever gets to mow on their internships and things like that.
They mess this up a very little bit, but just follow the arc, for crying out loud.
Yeah. It's like, just, giving them those opportunities, they're not going to hurt anything, when, we're not going to have an intern mow on game day, but, when there's those opportunities, it's like taking time to like show them and explain things to them, because that's what they're there for. They're there to learn. And, like I said, I would not be sitting here talking to you right now if if I didn't have those people that did the same thing for me.
Absolutely. And it's funny because when you said like taking that 5 minutes, I was thinking about a time when I was talking to Bill and I'm sitting here asking the dumbest questions, like, how do you make sure like it's perfectly watered and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this guy has been doing this for how long? And I'm sitting here like a 5-year-old child, like, you don't know how to water, you idiot. Like, I'm like, and he talked to me. I was like, thank you for your help, because in my mind, I didn't really understand properly. Again, watering an infield is such an art in itself.
Yeah.
No one really thinks about it.
And like, if this, podcast had been around 10 years ago when I was coming up, like, just to hear somebody like Bill or like Luke Yoder, who you've had on, like those guys, like what they say is gospel, and like, cause they've done it, longer than,
you're talking to the godfathers.
You know what I mean? It's like, you want to soak up as much that information as possible. And yeah, when you're young, it's like, I mean, those are the kind of the people you look up to and that you want to, kind of get to their level. And it's hard to do that if you don't ever like ask them questions or, understand how they, do what they do or why they do what they do, So yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, like, if you have any question, like, feel free to ask. I don't care if you think I'd rather you ask it and sound stupid as opposed to not ask it and do something stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't think there's any stupid questions yet. Like, it's coming from a place of wanting to get to know or how to have an understanding.
Absolutely. I will say, I am a high school teacher. There are stupid questions. There are some very stupid questions.
I'm sure you're dealing with a lot more than I am.
The one that still haunts me to this day, freshman, I think it was my first year teaching, actually. He was a freshman. And he's a great kid. And I think he's like in his sophomore year of college now. And I'm sitting here and I'm giving like this lecture on trees. And he goes, Mr. Miller, do trees move to have sex? Like, do they like get out of the ground, find a quiet space and have sex? And I'm sitting there like explaining again, sexual reproduction with everything. And I'm sitting here and I drop my smartboard little pen and I walk out of the room. I'm like, I'm done. Nope. It's like, no, it's no more. There's no more teaching. I can't do it. Like, somebody come get these kids. I'm done. I'm like,
now that you tell me that, I guess there is such thing as a stupid question. But
again, like, I love the kid to death. He got way better, but like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay. I didn't think there were stupid questions. I said that. I always said there's never a stupid question. And I heard this question. I was like, I have to take it back. It's done. No, there are stupid questions. And I've had a couple similar to that. I'm like, oh, goodness. I'm like, where do your minds go to like think that? As I'm explaining how it happens, I'm like, all right, yep, this is it for me. I'm done. I retire.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the fields.
I guess you kind of just have to put yourself in their shoes sometimes and say, you know what, I guess you just don't know what you don't know, and you don't even know you don't know it.
I couldn't put the shoes on, honestly, because I didn't know there could be someone that's ridiculously questioned ever.
That's funny.
But again, stuff like that, it's always fun to see. And like you said, I always tell my kids, ask before making a problem, sort of like, hey, if you don't know how to use the mower, guess what? We've gone over it 4 times and you still don't know. Come talk to me, With everything, one of the things that we, as an organization, we're all sort of members of now newly named the Sports Field Management Association, I believe is the right term now.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get used to that, but yeah.
Being there when it happened, our kids actually were the first ones to paint the logo at the convention center, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
What has it been? What role has it played in your career to be a member of the organization that sort of we all acclaim ourselves to as sports field managers?
Yeah, for me, the best part about, everything SFMA is the networking, man. Like, not having it the last couple of years because of COVID, it's something you kind of bank on every year, every, January, and it's, to kind of, season. Yeah. Because obviously, when you've worked in this industry long enough, you've been a lot of places, you know a lot of people, and everybody kind of, moves in their own direction and kind of finds their own career path. But, it's that time, that you get a couple days to kind of, catch up, reminisce, and, and then also just meet new people, like there's a lot of new guys that I met this year, and it's cool to have that, that resource, where, because as big as this industry's gotten, it's still, maybe 2,000 people that do it, worldwide. I don't even know, but
like 4,200 to the event.
Yeah. Okay. So but it's like, when you think about it on the grand scheme, it's very, small industry, compared to, other things that, there's a million accountants, it's not like you could, so I
went to the GCSA and they said it was only 40% capacity, what it normally is. And there was like 7,500 people there. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I know that community's, got a lot more, but there's also a lot more golf courses than there are,
Absolutely.
stadiums. So it's kind of relative, but kind of getting back to the question, it's just a great place to kind of, get to know people. It's, for the younger kids, it's a great place to, see the new equipment that's out there, to talk to the vendors that are selling it, and trying to just like get an understanding on, everything that goes into all of this. And, I like I said, I've been, a member for, close to 10 years now. And I look forward to that every single year, because I really enjoy getting to see everybody and just catching up.
Absolutely. I do. And I've met a lot of new people this year. Again, this was a really creepy encounter, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate this man, but he walks up hearing my voice around the corner. He's like, "Are you the Tiger Turf Talk guy?" I'm like, "Oh." I was like, "Yes." I was like, "It's great to meet you." I was like, "I'm retiring now," because I didn't know my voice was that recognizable. So no, but it was great to meet people again that listen, and like I was like, I never thought that would happen, but like you said,
Right.
meeting the new people is always great, and having the opportunity to again network in a sense of, especially this year, like with my kids being there, it was great for them to see firsthand what could be, which was awesome. And Savannah was a really nice place to have it.
It was cool. It was cool.
And,
It was my first time ever down there. And, I'd always heard so many great things, and, actually get down there and check out that whole downtown, what a beautiful city that place was.
100%.
It was really cool.
I'm excited for Utah. I've never been to Salt Lake.
I have not either. So that'll be another good experience. It's cool to that they kind of get to those places that are, maybe non-traditional.
In-betweeners. Not the San Diego, Florida.
Exactly. Which, I'll never complain if it's down in San Diego or Florida, but at the
San
same
Diego's
time,
always nice,
Yeah. But it's cool to see these places that otherwise you might not have an opportunity to go to. So 100%. I really enjoy that.
100%. So we wrap up on these last two questions, and I always love to hear again what everyone thinks, because it's so unique to who you are and your experiences and what you've accomplished in your career. Again, this isn't to make it easier in any way, shape, or form, but if there was one thing that you wish you knew heading into it, with the fact that you found out about turf science through a friend. By the way, does the friend say, "Hey, I get free tickets"? I'm the one that brought you to turf. Does he give you that crap or no?
He lives here in Chicago too.
Of course he does.
Yeah, he's a golf course guy, but I take care of him when I can. So
sorry, I popped in my head. I was like, he's just begging for tickets. It's like, you wouldn't be doing this without me,
Exactly. I owe a lot to him.
Yeah. What was it that you wish you knew sort of heading into the whole idea of that?
When I got into it, I didn't know how many places it could take me. And I've been out to Phoenix, I've lived in New York, I've lived up in Michigan, I'm here in Chicago, and I was down in Cincinnati. There's just so many different avenues that you can take. And you kind of learn that as you go, but it's just a really cool sense that, you can, kind of have this this track where you're on the field, and I don't know, there's just something special about being on a baseball field and, being involved with it. It's really cool. And, something I think I wish I knew at the time, me coming up, I was always, I'd be at one job and I'd be trying to, looking for the next one, more money, whatever. And I guess my advice, it's not something I wish I knew. I wish I did a better job of it, would be to kind of stay present in what you're doing, right now, because there's always, opportunities to learn, meet new people, do new things. And it's like, if you're always peeking around the corner for the next thing, you're not really going to enjoy what you're doing right now. And I look back at some of those times, and I was just on the come up, and I was just there wasn't any special title or anything like that, but they were some of the most fun days of my life, man. And I really, I had a great time, but I wish I would have soaked it up more too, because there's, a lot of, when you're naive and you don't know anything better, it's just like, you don't have any stress, and life is fun, and you get to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And it's just enjoying each step of the journey, and just not ever trying to I mean, it's good to have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, but life happens and you just kind of have to adjust. And so I guess my biggest advice would be just to stay in the moment and have fun with what you're doing right now. And, things will come.
Love that. Be present. And that's, I don't know. I actually responded to a tweet the other day, and do you know John Klinsman?
Down
in
Tennessee.
Yeah. He asked what makes a good mentor, and the first thing I said is be present. It's so true. Just being there, understanding what's going on, and enjoy yourself. I remember as a young guy going to different cities that weren't home, and it was nerve wracking, but those experiences are just something that you just take for granted half the time. So
it is. But it's when you have nobody else to lean on, you learn more about yourself than you ever will any other time period in your life. Because I remember, when I got out to Phoenix, I literally didn't have a single person I knew within 2,000 miles of me. And it was time for me to grow up. And I did. And, it forced me to finally go meet new people and do different things. And just, it really puts your back against the wall to grow up and, figure out everything for yourself.
Absolutely. I don't know if I could do that in Phoenix, by the way. I enjoyed my time there, but there is literally nothing other than sand.
Yeah, I will say that I loved it out there. I had a blast. The hardest part for me was when you got away from the ballpark and you didn't see any green anywhere, because obviously you kind of take that for granted, when you grow up and, you're on the East Coast, I'm in the Midwest, 100%. And having your greenery, and it's just a simple lawn as opposed to a yard full of stone, those are the small things that you don't even know or think about, until you get out there.
100% for sure. And we always wrap up on this one. For young kids like in my class, again, who are interested, intrigued, thinking about going into the industry, what would be your best words of advice for them, sort of just starting off, maybe looking into what could be and what the possibility could be with something again, in baseball? I remember I missed that rush. It's so much fun. The last 45 minutes for a game is always just you're moving. Everything's got to be perfect. Chalk, paint, whatever it is that you do, get it done, move, water. Those were the days that you're just this is it. Let's do this. Those
absolutely.
Moments. What would be your best words of advice for our kids and our students and the idea of joining the turf grass industry?
I would say, if you're thinking about getting into a turf, it's the coolest thing about it is everything you do is tangible, and you get to see, your hard work pay off. I would say, more so for just any advice I have for them, there's 2 things in the world that you can control, and it's your attitude and your effort. And, nobody likes to be around a guy that has a bad attitude, and nobody likes to be the guy that doesn't put in the effort, into their job. If you come into work every day, and you have a good attitude and you have a good work ethic, you're going to go a long way, You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be, you don't have to, be the physically most fit or anything like that. If you bust your butt and come in every day and do your job and just really grind it out and have a good attitude doing it, laugh at yourself, because we all screw up. The people that take themselves too seriously, those people are hard to be around. Laugh at yourself, have fun, but your attitude and your effort are two things that you can't control each and every day. And our job, obviously, there's so many things that you can't control, being the weather, being, whatever the circumstance that, like I have a 10-game homestand and follow that with, concerts. You can't control that. Like, you just have to deal with it. And, part of that is, having a good attitude and just kind of developing a plan and just, always think ahead in this job too. When you're planning out your year, you obviously have to adjust on the fly, but I mean, have plans in place and, when shit hits the fan, like, be ready and, but your attitude and your effort are going to carry you through, pretty much any situation that you ever get through.
I love that. I have a presentation. I know it sounds stupid, but I have a presentation of like the 10 things that you can control. And those are two of the big ones,
Yeah. I mean,
like being on time takes no skill. No
100%.
talent.
Exactly.
Work ethic, your attitude, like you said, effort, trying to remember the others, but stuff like that, like the stuff that the moment you wake up that you control, like those are the things that will either make your life what you want it to be, or you'll just hate yourself every single day of your life, which is a sad statement, but it's very, very apparent nowadays during COVID. And I shouldn't say post-COVID because I'll probably get canceled. But again, like moving towards this time frame where we're sort of getting back to a normal time, where people have lost that lack of effort, the lack of sort of love of working, the love of being with people. It's stuff like that, again, I think it's so huge what you're saying and how important it is to our kids and really just a bunch of human beings that even that I work with that are sort of like, guys, like what you project is what they're going to feel and they're going to give back to you, So
100%.
I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you kind of touched on it, but I mean, I just hope that when things normalize, people, working is satisfying. Like, yeah, we have jobs that, provide maybe more than, your average day-to-day job, but like whatever it is you're doing, like be good at it, like don't go through the motions. Don't expect somebody to, just, give you a participation award with everything. It's like, go out, earn it, and be good at what you do. And like I said, at the end of the day, your attitude and your effort are gonna, carry you through every situation, no matter what.
100%. Always be passionate is my big thing. That's what I always try to get across to my kids is if you're passionate about something, everything else sort of comes easy,
Absolutely.
If you hate what you do, you're not going to have the effort, attitude, anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I try to do in my job is sort of instill that passion for sports fields, and understanding what turf can bring to them as an opportunity. Like you said, so many different areas that you can go into. Like, and we have some of like the big names, the incredible people that have always been sort of example, Luke Yoder being with Pittsburgh and then the Padres and now working for, again, it's not a retirement job, but working for people like Dura Edge and stuff like that, where and like he's taken a step back and focus on him and other things. So I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. This has been incredible. And I love doing this stuff, just like you said, having these conversations about what your story is and how everything came to be. And I can't thank you enough for what you're doing for the kids and everything with this. So really appreciate you taking the time.
And I really appreciate you having me on, man. You're doing an awesome job doing, this podcast and, kind of getting people's stories out there. And I really appreciate what you do. And like I said, I hope that, all the young turf professionals, out there, are listening to, all the content that you're putting out there. And there's a lot of good takeaways you can take from, hearing people that have been around and done different things. And kudos to you for, creating this and keeping it going and having it be so successful. That's obviously, a testament to you and your hard work and, all of your effort. So thanks for everything, man. I really appreciate having me on here.
I really appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you.